My guest today, Miss Nathalie McFadden, wandered into you. I don't even know what we were shooting, but we went into Milestone Studios and you were there.
Yeah.
And you and I started to have a bit of a conversation, and I just found everything you had to say fascinating. But outside of that conversation, I know nothing about you whatsoever. So the way we normally start these things, let's get it right from the beginning. Where were you born, raised, all of that kind of stuff?
Okay, I was born and raised in Montreal, Quebec.
Okay.
And lived there for the first 13 years of my life.
Okay.
And then we moved out west to BC. Lived in Abbotsford, BC for just a little over 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent my teenage years and early adulthood there. And then I worked for the same company as my dad. And that plant got shut down and was transferred to Sarnia.
Okay.
And met my husband there while working, and moved to Chatham, and then we made our way down to Windsor.
So just kind of bumping around.
Bumping around, yeah.
Tell me about Montreal, growing up in Montreal. What was that like for you?
Oh, it was, oh my gosh, I didn't have to think about it. I'm French, actually. I have all my family is in Quebec.
Right.
In the suburb of Montreal, and I just live in a small suburb of it.
Yeah.
And what was it like? It was good.
Yeah.
I miss the life of Montreal, downtown Montreal.
Like the
I went
activity?
to visit every once in a while. I just love the French culture, just the whole life of it.
How long did it take you to adjust was that something that you appreciated even as a kid, like when you left?
When I left, absolutely.
Talk to me about that. That's a tough process,
not to
right?
get away from a family, but to take on a new realm in life.
Yeah.
Because living there and going through my hearing issues, it was difficult as a child to break down the barriers of what I was faced with in society in general.
Do you think that was specific to Montreal, though, or do you think that was...
No, I think no, I don't think it's specific to Montreal at all. It has
Right.
nothing to do with that, no.
But just because that's where it was while all of that was going on, it was nice to find
Yeah,
a new
and more
place.
school. Not my
Yeah.
parents, not my family, nothing to do with that at all. My parents were so supportive in breaking those barriers down.
Right.
But it's just school environment.
Because
So-
you weren't born deaf, right?
Yes, I was.
Oh, you were. Sorry, I misunderstood. I forgot part of the conversation we had. So explain that part of it to me, since we're on it already. You were born with hearing loss.
Profound hearing loss.
Okay.
Not hereditary at all.
Okay.
So I'm the only one in the family that has a hearing loss.
Nobody else in the family.
No,
Okay.
no one else in the family. And my parents were strong. They saw that I couldn't speak.
Okay.
I wasn't speaking from the time as I progressed, like age 2, 3. My mom especially saw that there was an issue, and so both my parents would try to find help and figure out what they could do to help me, and they talked to many specialists and doctors, and at the time everyone would tell them, she needs to go to the school for the deaf and send her away.
Because that was what, if you don't mind me asking,
No.
what year, what era was this?
1966.
So it's this in the 60s?
That's when I was born.
Okay.
In the 60s, yeah.
So 60s, 70s as you're going through
Yes.
this kind of thing.
Yes.
And that was
68.
and that was the way that was looked at, right? Like
Yes.
send them away to the...
They sent him away, especially with the type of hearing loss I had. It was considered where go to the special needs, the school for the deaf, where the needs are met.
Right.
There. My parents didn't want to send me away. And it wasn't a thing to do. It's just not. All it took was for one doctor to tell them she can do this and mainstream the school.
And that was enough.
That was all it took for my parents. And so they worked with this doctor to get me the hearing aid that I need and to get me through speech therapy. And I went through speech therapy all the way through my, I was 11 before I stopped. And we Sorry, I'm kind of like, I'm trying to think.
No. But
that can be cut. Okay. Yeah. So.
Well, let me ask you this, because I think what I'm most fascinated by, and it may be an unfair question, so if you have no way of answering this, it's fine. But like, when I think back on my childhood, I have like these flashes of visuals or whatever, but a lot of it is like sounds that I hear in my head, right? Like stuff that I remember from like being a kid, like the sounds of the house, that sort of thing. I'm assuming your experience is going to be a bit different than that, right?
Definitely different, yeah.
So when you look back on those early days, like what memories do you have from like the earliest part of like trying to figure out the world like that? Or figuring out that was a thing that was an issue even maybe?
It's a visual thing. Like everything was more visual. I really haven't had to think about it. Put it this way, I'm the kind of person that I don't dwell.
Okay.
In the past.
All right.
And if I didn't enjoy it then, I move on.
Oh, okay. Just
and
sort of
so
past it.
for me to think about looking back to see what really triggered that.
Yeah.
I especially, well, and maybe because of that era of being young, going to school, and kids can be real cruel.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I remember, and I don't want to think about it.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to remember the good things.
That's
the good things is spending time with the family, being out in nature, and having activities that we do as laughing and sharing, picnic, and especially nature. We were very outdoorsy people. Going canoeing with my dad and just enjoying the quietness and just appreciating nature for what it was. No, it was a big part of this. And being in Quebec, it's cold. The winters are cold, so we got involved in winter activities, and snowshoeing, skiing, and that kind of stuff. That kind of, yeah, I guess that's what I would say.
I wonder, and I don't even know if you'll have a perspective on this, but like it sounds to me like you had a very like active family. Like your family was
Absolutely.
very sort of involved.
Yes, very much so.
How much do you think your disability had to play in that? Like, do you think that they went the extra step to make sure that you had the kind of life that they would want from you because of the disability?
Absolutely.
Like,
I don't know if it's because of
Right.
it. I would say it's more like, despite that, you're going to make it as normal as you can be, like any other kid.
But that's my question. Did you? Because like it's a positive spin is where I'm going on this. Like, have you had any perspective on it? Like, if you didn't have the issue with your hearing, and you were just straight like every other kid, do you think your parents would have put the effort into parenting that they did because they wanted so much from you? Do you think
my parents were that kind of people?
Yeah.
Totally would.
Yeah.
They totally would. They were the kind of people that would say to you, "I don't care if you think this is something you can't do. You can."
Right.
They were that kind of people. And to say despite, or to say that there was disability there, they did not want to say the word disability.
Right.
Or a barrier there. They broke down whatever barrier was there. Mm-hmm. And when I went to school, one of the things that really stands out in my mind that my mom always said to me was that she always had to go to school, and like the society back then would say she's the one that had the problem.
Right.
So they didn't want to take the steps to help me. Not like it is today.
Sure.
So they would go to my parents and say, "Well, she's not hearing anything." And my parents would my mom especially, would say, "Did you check to see if her hearing aid was on?" And found out that I would turn them off because it was too loud.
Oh, okay.
And so I would miss out on things that were going on. And this is when I was really young, not really knowing. I really don't recall any of this, but that's what I recall my mom talking about. So my mom was always a very strong advocate to make sure that the society would accept me as I am, like a normal kid. She also took a lot of classes to try and understand and take sign language and back then there were classes where sorry, let me phrase that different. I'm trying to figure out how to say, can say that right. So she would join a group of parents that had kids with similar problems,
right?
Like with hearing
support
loss.
groups, kind of thing.
Yeah, small groups, and so they would like block their hearing and then try to mingle with other people to see what it's like to not have any hearing at all. So that kind of stuff.
That's really interesting.
So my mom would immerse herself
Right.
into trying to understand what it was like for me. And when I was going for speech therapy, I'd have long sheets of all these words written out, and I had to recite them out loud to my mom
Right.
when I came home. So after seeing the speech therapist, I would come home and then recite them, and she'd correct me on how I say the words properly. So that's why to this day I can speak coherently, I guess.
Right. Was that a frustrating process for you as a kid?
yeah.
I know you. Yeah. Okay.
Because it was relentless. It was like, you're going to do this. I want you to do this. And sometimes I really don't ever recall being depressed, but if I had any downtime, she made sure that she would turn that situation around and tell me, don't let that person get you down. That's not, I guess I think back and I'm trying to, again, I don't think about it.
No, but
So-
actually to me, that part is really fascinating to me as well, because obviously experiences are different and stuff, but I dwell so much on the past that the idea of just blocking it out completely is fascinating to me. I can't imagine how that even works in your day to day, but I wonder if, because it's funny because you don't, the way we're talking about it, it seems like you don't have any specific memories. You just have a general sort of
From that,
I'm glad it's over.
Actually, I have one very specific memory that stood out in my mind.
Okay.
For many, many years, and I didn't even tell my parents about this. Was when I went from, in Quebec, the school system is you go from JK to grade 6.
Right.
You don't have grade 7.
Okay.
You go to high school and you have secondary 1, secondary 2, and so on.
Right.
So it's not this whole grade 1 to grade 13.
Right.
Whatever. So when you, a particular class of grade 6, the last day of school, we all sat in a group together with the teacher, and because then the following year you go to high school. And every kid in that class the teacher would say something about them and what's their strength and how well they're going to do and what she expected them, how she thought you would do going on to high school. And when it came to me,
I already hate this person, by the way, and you haven't even told the story, but go ahead.
you will. You will. And that's to speak of what the society was like back then.
Yeah.
And when it came to me, it was like, you're always going to struggle for the rest of your life. You're never going to make it. You're not going to make it. And that's what I remember, and it's probably one of the reasons why I block that part of my life. But it did come up periodically throughout my whole life afterward. And so
every time there was a struggle, right?
Okay. And being the little kid that kind of my mom was just like, no, you can do this, you can do this. It was like, okay. And kind of move on and didn't really dwell on it. And every once in a while it comes up in my life, thinking back. And I'm going to say in the last 2 to 3 years, actually I shouldn't say that. About 4 years ago, I spoke to a counselor about this. And I say it's not a counselor, it's more like a business coach. Mm-hmm. I own my own business. So
sure.
I was speaking to her about what I wanted to do to move forward. And she said, you've got an issue. Because I kept using my hearing loss as an excuse for not doing certain things.
Okay.
And I brought that up. I brought that incident up. And she said to me, I want you to write a letter to that teacher. And really just put everything you want to say in that letter. And I had 10 minutes to write that letter. So in that 10 minutes, I gave my thought to the piece of paper. And my thought at that time, what I wrote out was, thank you for telling me that I couldn't make it. It's because of you that I strive above and beyond. And I can speak 2 languages. I make every effort possible to make sure I have every technology to my disposition so that I can hear as well as I do, and I can speak with anyone, and I have children that are thriving, I have a beautiful family, I have everything I want.
That's
Thank
beautiful.
you.
That's awesome. You know what's funny is because I can hear as you're talking about this that it's both for you. You know what I mean? That it was both a benefit and like that the thank you is really like the positive spin on it. But I can hear the struggle to get to that point because it wasn't always thank you, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Maybe a different you?
Because of that, I had to prove a point that it could win. Yes.
That's it's funny because you say that idea popped up to you over and over again in your life.
Well, just to give you an idea, I ended up playing the classical guitar. And
why didn't we know this? Why don't you go get my guitar? I want to hear
don't
this.
play anymore. That's how I spent my time as a teenager.
Okay.
And I spent about several years playing it, and I haven't had time to practice it. And I'm a perfectionist, so I like to play a certain way. But I spent all of my personal time at home and just play the guitar. And
how did you end up with a guitar in your? Was that like I'm really interested in the connection between music and hearing loss. Like super interested because that's one of the stories that I always love. But it's usually talking about the bass lines and stuff. And not often you hear somebody with hearing loss picking up a classical guitar because there's a lot of high tones in that.
It was when our family moved out west. I was looking for something. An outlet to really put my whole expression into.
Sure.
And I asked my parents, I want to have a guitar. I want to just try it. And so I just kind of strummed it. And what I love about it is having an instrument close to my body and I could feel the music.
Oh, yeah, I guess that would make a lot of sense.
I used to put my chin on the top of the guitar and just
feel it?
And just feel the vibration and the music that came out of it. And my parents sent me for guitar lessons, and then I did so well that this teacher said I can't teach her anymore, and she needs a private teacher.
That's awesome.
And at that time, after playing for 3 years, so I was 13, when I turned 15, 16, I applied to the Yamaha Festival competition. So over 1,000 students across the country would submit their piece of music, and
pre-written, like this stuff you wrote,
no,
or piece that you recorded.
Pick out and just play.
Gotcha.
And so I played my music, got it recorded, and sent it. And though only 50 out of 1,000 students were selected to go to Ottawa and spend a week at Carleton University to learn more about the music that we want to practice. And I was selected as
That's
one of the
awesome.
50. I was one of the ones who had played the least amount of time an instrument to make it there. So most of them had played 5, 6, 7 years more, and I had played maybe 2 years.
How old were you at the time for this?
I was 15.
About 15 years old?
Yes.
What was that experience like for you? Like
I was
that?
phenomenal.
Yeah?
It's just open up. At that time, it was really, my parents were really, like I said, they were very strong advocates, and they said, you can overcome anything you want to put your mind to. And to be able to play an instrument despite my hearing, and to perform and be selected to go. In fact, I forgot about this. So I spent a week at this Yamaha Music Festival with 50 other students from across the country, and playing different instruments, not just the guitar. They played the piano and they played different other instruments. I ended up, at the end of the week, they would hand out awards to students in the different category, and I won the award in my own category.
Oh, that's awesome.
As the most promising student.
That must have been, that's pretty cool.
That was really a big highlight, and it kind of like reinforced the thought that when you just gotta keep at it.
So, perspective question for you. Because you've dealt with this issue your entire life, right? And obviously going through school, like you said, you had a hard time. So I'm guessing completely that experience put you in a position where you were like centered out quite often. Is that accurate? Like, did you feel centered out because of your disability at all, or am I just making shit up?
When I was in elementary school in Montreal, yes.
Yeah.
When I moved out west, it was more about learning a new language.
Okay.
Because I didn't speak English.
Oh, Yeah,
So-
sorry, that took me a minute to process, but yeah, I guess that would be a thing too, right?
So the focus was more on, oh, look, we have a French girl. And I was cool. That's the cool factor.
Okay.
And
All right.
it was no longer about my hearing being an issue. It was about being the cool kid who speaks French.
All right.
So yeah, and that's how I stood out.
Okay. Well,
in a good way.
No, but that's kind of where I was going with the question, because like, especially doing the guitar thing and that kind of thing. My question is about being centered out. Because I know, like, a lot of times when we're young and as we're growing up, what we get centered out for is the things that we hate about ourselves the most.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for a lot of people, that puts them in a position where they don't want to be centered out ever again. They don't want to have a spotlight put on them. They don't want to, be in a position where they have to perform in front of a crowd, that sort of thing. Did you struggle with any of that?
Like any other kid.
Yeah.
I can't say that I subconsciously thought my hearing made me stand out.
Right.
I just felt like any other kid.
Right.
That, again, I block things out and I don't make a focus. I really don't think I thought of my hearing being an issue until I got into my adulthood.
Okay.
It stood out to me because it's almost like there's a connector in my brain that said, oh, because of this, I'm having issues with this.
Okay.
Whereas while you're growing up, you just want to be a friend to anybody. You just want to be special in your own way.
And the world is strange and weird no matter what anyway?
It doesn't matter what you do.
You
know, and what I see today with my kids is that they're so confident in themselves, and I like to think that as a parent, you help them see the positive things of life.
For sure.
I don't really know how to say that.
No. I think you said it just perfectly. Yeah, no, I think you said it just perfectly.
It's not to focus, and I guess I kind of get the struggles the kids go through, so kind of rephrase things so that it's in a positive spin. So don't look at it this way. Why don't you look at it that way? And then kind of switch the thinking a little bit.
That's all your parents. That's all your parents, right?
Yeah.
Every time you faced some sort of adversity, it was like, well, where you can find the. That's great. You had great parents. Man, you had great parents. So one of the things that I found so fascinating when we started talking is that you specifically went through and had the cochlear implant done, right?
Yes, I did.
Now, I know, and this is one of the conversations we had that brought this on, is that culturally in the deaf community, stuff like the cochlear implant and any of the technology that is to improve hearing or whatever has sort of, there's not necessarily always a positive outlook on it, right? You want to talk about that a little bit for me? Like maybe for my audience that wouldn't know about some of this stuff, maybe kind of walk them through what that culture is and why there might be a look at it that way?
Well, the deaf community have their own language. It's a sign language. Mm-hmm. And they really, and having a technology like a cochlear implant doesn't necessarily solve the issues for them.
Right.
Because there's a whole realm of learning how to speak, learning to decipher what the sounds are, and making that connection so that they can be part of a society. And whereas you have that deaf culture that they've created and spent years and years and years to cultivate and be accepting in that community. So yes, there is two separate, like the hearing world where we think it's the norm to be able to hear, and there's this deaf culture that they created that culture so that it's an accepting and welcoming community and using sign language as their own language. Mm-hmm. That cochlear implant technology is trying to bridge that.
Right.
I really can't say too much more about that, except that I'm a hard of hearing person. I'm not deaf.
Right.
And I'm not fully hearing.
Right.
I'm hard of hearing. And that's where, like for a while, when I first lived on my own, I moved from BC to Sarnia and then lived on my own and joined the Canadian Hearing Society. and talk to people in that society, there was a thing like, no, you don't want cochlear implant because the technology wasn't very well developed. There were issues with
Right.
it. And it's always improving at warp speed. I mean, things are always getting better and better and better every year. And I never thought that I would be able to have the cochlear implants because there's a bit of a threshold where you have to have such hearing loss before you can be approved to get the surgery. And it took one person at the Canadian Hearing Society to tell me, you could be a candidate for it. And my jaw dropped. I thought, wow, really?
You never thought about yourself as a candidate?
I never thought I would be accepted
Right.
as a candidate. So I'm probably going off on my own story here as opposed to the whole society.
No.
That's as much as I can say about
Of
that.
course, no. That's what we do here.
I went, so I was referred to a counselor in London.
Yeah.
Because they do surgeries in London, Toronto, and Ottawa here in Ontario. And I went to see her and went through all the hearing tests and went for an ultrasound to see what the bone structure is. And I was a candidate. And I was just like dumbfounded. Again, it was just one of those things where the pieces fell into place. It was meant to happen.
Right.
And I embraced it wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
My kids, so let's say I've had my cochlear implant for 13 years now. So my kids...
Talk about exactly what a cochlear implant is, because we've said it a couple times, and there may be some people that have no idea what we're talking about. So
Right. So a cochlear implant is actually a little device that is implanted in through into the ear. And on the end of the implant is an electrode that is wrapped inside the cochlea.
okay.
So when you wear the hearing aid or the hearing aid that makes up the cochlear implant, there's a magnet piece that attaches to your head and send the signal to the implant through the electrode, and the sound signal is picked up by your brain.
So is the electrode that's outside of your ear what's actually picking up the sound?
The electrode is inside the
Or
cochlea.
sorry, the piece that's outside, I should say. Yeah.
So the device, the hearing aid
Yeah.
picks up the sound
And sends it-
and send the signal through the electrode into your cochlea.
Right.
And then the brain nerves picks up the sound.
But it's not just a speaker, it's like an electronic signal that's sent directly into you. Wow, that's so cool.
It's really cool.
Tell me about your experience with it. What was it like getting it?
It's just so I had the surgery, and it's, by the way, it's just a 2 to 3 hour surgery.
Right.
You have an overnight stay in the hospital, and then you spend a month of having no sound whatsoever because it's not activated.
Okay.
So you just allow they cut you open to get the implant in. So there's 23 staples to close it up. So that it takes a week. The doctor takes the staples out, and then it takes time to heal.
Right.
Because you got all that swelling from the cut and everything. And once the swelling comes down, a month later, you go back to see the audiologist, and they start activating the sound. So you get all those signals coming in. So this.
And you've seen these videos online, right?
Oh,
where they're turning, they're tear jerkers, like
Yeah, that's cool. And it sounds it sounds like a Donald Duck kind of.
Oh yeah.
It's warped. It's different, but your brain starts to recognize what it is and decipher it. So I would sit down with my husband and go, okay. Tell me certain words, and I would turn off. I'm trying to remember everything. For the most part, I wouldn't use my hearing aid on the other side, on my other ear. Just rely solely on the cochlear implant. It's to allow your brain to focus
on the specific, on the new sounds.
On the new sound, exactly. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard. But a lot of time I was just put my hearing aid on because I had to talk on the phone for my job, like for work and that. So, but at night I come home and try to decipher the sounds, and you walk into another room and I could hear a hum, and I'm like, honey, what is this? That's the fridge. Oh, you hear that? Or the biggest one was hearing the songbirds.
Yeah.
Because I had the surgery in August. And so by the time I really got to get the healing process and everything, so we're going through the winter months and, it's quiet. You hear the crows. I could hear the crows. I could always hear the crows.
Right.
And the seagulls and that kind of like deep, loud sound the birds make. I work at Point Pelee National Park.
Okay.
As a designer. And they, of course, like this time of year, they have the festival of birds.
Right.
So I went on hiking, bird hiking, and I was just overwhelmed with the songbird.
Yeah.
And all I could do was turn on and off my cochlear implant going. I would turn it off and I don't hear a thing. I turn it back on and go, oh my God. And my tears coming down my cheek. I was just like, what is that? Those videos that you see, those people that are crying when they hear all this sound they've never heard, or their parents' voices they've never heard before. It's true. Like, you really get so overwhelmed with your emotions. And it's funny because my kids complain about the song that was done, but it's choking away. I'm like, I just don't go. I love it.
It's funny because of the way you describe this. Actually, this kind of gives us an opportunity. Nisha? Right, Nisha, come sit down with us. We may have to pull one of these cameras or whatever. This is, Nisha, what's your last name?
Dunkley.
Dunkley?
Yep.
Nisha Dunkley, how's it going?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Perfect. So, what is your specific title? Who are you? What do you do?
I'm an audiologist.
Okay, and what does that mean?
Generally,
Yeah.
we take care of hearing and balance disorders.
Okay, so I have a bunch of questions, but specifically with what you brought up with the cochlear implant, gets me on this whole other path of some stuff that I've been thinking about that maybe both of you can give a little perspective on. As a musician, and a terrible one of the big things for me was always like, I can hear a song, but I don't hear the different instruments. Mm-hmm. Now, over the last 3 years or whatever, I've started playing more and more, and I've just naturally noticed that as I hear music, whether it's on the radio or when we're playing or whatever, I can specifically pick out pieces now that before I never could. Mm-hmm. And it just sort of got me thinking on a process that this is like, that's what hearing is, right? Do you want to give me a perspective on this? Like, maybe walk through that concept.
Well, I think broadly, the thing with hearing is it's not just your ears. It's really brain learning.
Okay.
So your brain can learn forever, right? So if you the more you expose yourself to something like music, a specific kind of music, your brain will learn to pick that out. It's the same thing with speech.
Right.
So Nathalie exposed herself to a lot of speech. Your mom exposed you to a lot of speech. And so her brain made those pathways.
Right.
To be able to distinguish sounds and things like that. And so it's really, it's just teaching your brain what to listen for, and it learns that over time.
And it's so funny though, because like when you have the experience, and I wonder if this was the same for you. And I'm amazed that we can even talk on this level if we can, but when you're in the spot where you don't have that information, where you don't know how to hear those things, you're in a spot where you kind of feel like, I don't even know what I'm listening for, like, let alone like how to determine one thing from another. I don't know how to sort any of that stuff out. And it's amazing that you can like think your way into hearing, like, but that's really what it's kind of about, right?
It is a learning process though, right? Like it's a conscious decision that I want to try to do this. Mm-hmm. And it is a time factor. It does take time. So even with people who lose their hearing perhaps as they get older, it's something that happens gradually, and so you may not even notice it coming on. But for Nathalie, it was sounds she heard with the cochlear implant and said, oh, that's a songbird. For some of us, those sounds go away and you may not notice it right away.
Right.
And so when you get something like a hearing aid or something like that, your brain has to relearn how to hear those sounds, and it can do it, but you have to put the effort and time into deciding this is what I'm going to do. And it can be very frustrating at times. It doesn't always sound exactly the way you'd like it to, but it is sort of that plasticity of the brain and the ability of it to relearn.
Talk to me, because how long have you been in your field?
20 years?
So 6 or 7 years, we got to say. I mean, so you started when you were 5. I get it. So,
I don't remember.
so I'm guessing through your path, you've had a variety of clients. Let's say.
Yes.
Tell me, and you can't use Natalie because I'm sure she's your best one. I get it.
She's a superstar.
Outside of Natalie, tell me give me one of the most inspiring stories that you kind of remember through your path.
Gosh, well, my very first job, I was actually a cochlear implant fellow, so I worked with cochlear implants, and my very first cochlear implant that I hooked up by myself was a little 2-year-old who got her cochlear implant, and I remember and I was, it was my first one, so I'm kind of like, and we turned everything on, and her mom said her name, and she just the child started to bawl because she had never heard that before. And it was just, she didn't know it was her name. She didn't necessarily know where the sound was, but she heard the sound that her mother made. And her mom had never had that experience either of her child hearing that sound. So that was kind of super cool.
Yeah, I guess.
And that was
Did you
very
hold it
early.
together?
Yeah, of course.
Such a liar.
Professional.
Such a liar. How long did it take you to get to see the next one? That's the real question.
Yeah, no. It's sometimes with what I do, it's the small things.
Yeah.
It's maybe not the big things. And I mean, I watch those videos too, and I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. But sometimes it is the little things, like maybe my older patients who said, well, I went to a family gathering and I could have conversations with people again. People who have found themselves isolated but rejoin what's happening around them and can go to a Tim Hortons with their friends. Doesn't always work out. I mean, hearing aids are not perfect. The technology isn't perfect. We do what we can, but sometimes it's the small victories that can be very edifying.
Tell me about the other side of it. Give me your most frustrating. Like, obviously, you don't want to talk about specifics, but give me one of the more frustrating things that you have to deal with.
I think one of the frustrating things is we are limited physiologically by kind of what we're left with. So we are limited by what your brain can do, what the nerve endings can do, and sometimes physiologically there's not enough there for us to do as much as we would like to be able to do for people. Mm-hmm. And to have to say to someone, there's not enough nerve endings to stimulate this. We'll do what we can. That's hard because for audiologists, we just want people to have their best lives. And for us, communication is what kind of makes life worth living, right? Having friends and talking to them and being able to communicate with people and having a group where you can do that is really important. And so that can be difficult when we can't do for people what we would like to.
It's incredible. How did you get involved in this field anyway?
I actually thought I wanted to be a speech-language pathologist, and so I went to Wayne State University and did a post-bachelor year, and we had to do 30 hours of speech just as part of that coursework, and I really didn't like it. But I loved the diagnostic side of audiology and the testing and how I could do something and say, here's the problem. I can fix it, or I can try to fix it.
Right.
And so I really liked that sort of problem-solving part of it.
Give me, so I guess my question to you, and I think I already know the answer, I just want to hear you say it. What was the difference between it? The speech part of it, what was it about it that you didn't like?
This is terrible, and I'm sorry to my speech pathologist friends because I love you all dearly. It was a lot of doing the same work over and over, which is not.
That was your answer.
It's just not for me.
Yeah.
And there are people who do that, and they are very gifted at it, and we're very grateful for that. But it wasn't for me.
No, I totally get that. And like you said, the people that do that stuff, I'm fascinated by, because I couldn't imagine. Because to me, it seems like, and I have no experience in this, so I'm really just talking out of my ass. But it seems to me like, just from what you were describing, that kind of like the speech stuff, as important as it is, it's basically just going, no, say it again. No, say it again. No, say it again.
Well, it is, but it's not.
Right?
Yeah. And they have their good days and frustrating days too.
Yeah.
So,
but like
it's a partnership.
But with yours, it almost seems like you can, like you said, like you can walk in and go like, oh, well, that's done now.
Sometimes.
To a greater degree.
Yeah. It's just one thing I could speak to that I do recall from doing the speech therapy. I was so set in my mind that I was saying something the right way. And my speech therapist would say to me, no, Natalie, this is how you say it. I just said it. I said it this way. So she had to record me.
Yeah.
And I had to listen to how I was saying it to make me go, oh. So for a speech therapist, that's the struggle too, is to convince your patient that this is how you say it. And I'm sure there are tools today that
it's funny because the first thing I thought about when you brought that up was a conversation I had when I was young and I got a supervisor position at doing security, and one of the guys that worked under me was this older Italian guy, and we had a conversation about this, and he was the first person to sort of explain to me, like, look, stupid, I don't hear an accent. I know I have one, but I don't hear it at all.
You're the one with the accent.
Yeah. And it was like, oh yeah, people hear things differently. It's a bit about perspective. That's funny. So I guess since you get to play with all, because that was one of the exciting. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Do you need a break?
I need to replace the battery of my cochlear.
Not a problem. Let's take it. Yeah, that's hilarious. Okay, we're gonna just take a quick. Actually, yeah, just pause the camera. Just keep the audio rolling or whatever, and you can keep the cameras rolling. We'll just go.
Yeah.
It's we'll just edit it out. So we took a quick break because the battery in your implant went out, right?
Yes.
So but it gave us an opportunity to kind of actually see what we're talking about here. So maybe show us, and Nick, if you want to come in with the camera here.
Okay, so this. Oh my God, where do I get started? So here's the cochlear implant. So I have the manual part that goes on the head.
Okay.
Where the signals are sent across the cranium to go into the processor. Here's a battery part. But right now, I have a rechargeable battery. Let's just take it off. And I have to switch it to a new one. So I actually have 3 of them. And my one just died, so I just replaced it. But in case I didn't recharge my batteries, I do have spare batteries that I can put in. So I have to switch some of the components. I'll just open that up. I have to take this off. And then this is just sort of like an adapter. Take this off, and then I put this in here. And then I put 2 batteries in here, close it up, and off I go.
Oh, that's awesome.
So now I have 2 batteries that change every 2 days. But this is new. I just got it last year, and which is now accommodating a rechargeable battery. Before I had the rechargeable batteries, I used to have 3 batteries, which I had to change every 3 days.
Oof.
So those batteries lasted 3 days, and I had to change them, and I have a constant box beside me. Anywhere I go, or at the bottom of my purse, or anywhere, of just mounds of batteries that I use up. So
the rechargeable ones got to make you happy now then.
Yes, they last anywhere from 10 to 11 hours, depending on the surrounding noises. Because the sound is processed, the noisier my environment, the more it drains the battery.
Oh, that's really interesting. That's something I never thought of.
It's just
I guess because it's sending electrical signal every time that, right?
If you think about it, it's like a small computer.
Okay.
And the more things you ask your computer to do, the faster the battery runs down.
Right.
So it's doing the same thing. When there's a lot of background noise, it's working harder to pull the speech out of there.
Right.
And so it's straining the battery.
What's the either one of you, the computer processing that's involved in this, like the processor that's in that, I mean, you hear all the stupid equivalent. They went to the moon on less than what's in a cell phone. Blah, blah. What are we looking at? Like what?
It's
what?
a computer chip.
Yeah.
It's a computer chip. And so the work has always been to make that chip smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So we were actually just talking that when Natalie first got a cochlear implant, it would have been a box about this big. That was the processor.
Okay.
That she would have worn usually here.
I actually didn't get to wear the big processor.
No, you had the next
I
one.
had this option pretty much from 13 years ago.
Yeah.
But before that,
Before
it would have
that,
been
it was,
the box.
you know, and so if it was a small child that had it, we'd like put a harness on their back and
Sure.
throw the box in there. So this is actually super slick. That they can do that now.
That's awesome.
That's a lot of research and development and
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I know. Do we have any questions from the peanut gallery? Justice, what's going on?
So I know that I have blind roommates, and I know that there are different things that can cause blindness. I'm assuming that it's similar for hard of hearing, like there are different things that can cause hearing loss. So for your specific hearing loss, Natalie, how does the cochlear implant, if you know, bypass whatever the issue was to communicate the sound?
So, having really good age always help. And other things that, like, if I understand your question, so what are the things that I can use to make it easier for me to communicate with people?
No. I think she's asking, like, your specific hearing issue. What is it that the implant's doing to bypass whatever that issue is?
Yeah.
Is
My-
that,
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Thank you. My implant helped decipher the sound frequencies better than my hearing aid does.
Okay.
Like I said before, even today, despite how good the hearing aid and incredibly high technology that it is, with the help of Nisha, when I go out and listen to songbirds, I still can't pick up the songbirds because of the type of hearing loss I have.
Yeah.
So the higher frequencies, which would be what songbirds are in the higher frequencies, I have deep hearing loss in that.
Okay.
And the cochlear implant allows me to hear them.
Okay.
So to this day, when I turn it off or take the magnet off, I don't hear anything, and I put it back on, I'm able to pick that up. When I communicate with someone, having said that, when I communicate with someone, especially female, they have a higher pitch sound.
Yeah.
And there's vowels, like different letters or words that are harder to hear for me. So having the cochlear implant is able to pick that up better.
And if this is an appropriate question, and
No.
don't answer if it's not, what is the difference between like your ear and mine? So, because I don't have hearing loss, but you do. Do you know what the physical differences are?
The physical, so what I have is a malformed vestibular aqueduct syndrome.
Okay.
So it's in the ear where there's a malformation of the whole, if I understand correctly.
it's
Nisha?
like a small bony canal almost. Yeah.
So basically, it's not carrying the sound through,
Oh, okay.
and it's sort of like distorted. Like each ear has it slightly different, but they have the same sort of malformity, and yet carry the sounds differently to the brain, and it's not able to pick it up.
so each ear hears differently?
Correct.
So when you, this might not even be, anyway, if you're going through your day without any, like without a hearing aid at all, do you hear anything whatsoever?
Very, very.
Very little. But do you hear, like, does the room sort of seem off balance to you? Like, does that make sense? Because, like, if you're hearing one way in one ear.
So right now, I'm wearing my cochlear implant, and today's technology with the cochlear implant, they are able to salvage, to keep the hearing, whatever hearing is left. But when I had the surgery, all hearing was stripped from my ear because when you think about it, the hearing, the signals that your brain picks up is because of a hair cell inside the cochlea.
Yeah, so the hair cells are the nerve endings, and the nerve endings send the signal to the brain. So there's the nerve endings. There's thousands of them.
Yeah.
And they are stimulated, and that's the stimulation that is stimulating then the hearing nerve itself.
Right.
So originally with the cochlear implant, when that electrode array was inserted into the cochlea, it would destroy the existing
Right.
hair cells. So
Okay.
it would be, we would call it obliterating the hearing in that ear. So we wanted everyone to be very sure that that was what they wanted to do.
Oh, okay,
Because there's no going back once you've put that in.
Oh,
right? You can't
okay.
go back to using a hearing aid because there's no...
Because you shaved it,
there's
essentially.
There's no hair cells to stimulate at that point.
In fact, when they had to make a decision on which ear to put the implant in, they didn't know. The surgeon had to make a decision.
Because they have to figure out which one has...
Same hearing loss, yet my left side, I could say, no, I want to keep this one because that's the one I use my phone on.
Right.
That's the one that I was dependent on more so than the other one.
Right.
There's a bit of a difference. And so they made the decision to go with the right ear.
That explains my initial, the question that I didn't avoid it, but I had it and then just kind of let it pass, was why don't you have it in both ears?
I could be a candidate for it.
Okay.
I was told recently that I could be a candidate for it. I chose not to.
Okay. Why?
Because it would completely change the quality of the sound.
Oh.
And I've become so reliant on this.
Because it is still Daffy Duck a little
It's
bit,
a
right?
whole relearning process.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And Natalie's busy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. At the end of the day, you got like life and shit to take care of, right?
Natalie's a busy person.
Yeah.
And I mean, other people might make a different decision, but
Yeah.
it's you have to make the best decision.
Because you're
for
only
you.
making the decisions you need to make to be able to do the
Right.
shit that you want to do. It's not the only thing
And
happening in
she
your life.
does. I mean,
Turns out you're a
Natalie's-
fucking person too, eh?
Natalie's amazing, right? Like
Absolutely.
I do really well with what I have, and I mean, we're in an ideal situation right now where I can pick it up. And you know, the other technologies that help me that I wanted to bring up,
Yeah.
and it's because of working with Nisha that I was able to get this technology. It's called a Roger pen.
Hang on one second. Okay, we're good. I thought I was gonna sneeze. Sorry.
So this Roger pen is a really nifty.
I've seen pens like that. You do a bunch of drugs with them, right?
Yeah.
not Natalie.
So all I have to do is turn it on.
Okay.
So you'll see that there's a little green light that comes on, and it streams the sound directly into both.
The fuck out of here! Really?
Yeah.
Was it Bluetooth?
Wirelessly,
Yeah.
I'm
Really?
able to actually, if you were to give that pen to Justice,
Yeah.
I can hear her as though she's right beside me into my ears.
So it's as if I'm speaking
This is yes.
right into your ear.
So this is
Totally
this
into
is
my
called
ear.
FM technology.
Okay.
So
And,
when
go ahead.
so when I go into a crowded restaurant,
You can put that
venue,
right
I
next
put
to
this
it.
on. I'll have it around my neck, but if I'm with my husband, he'll wear it around his neck. So I have a little cord that it can be, that hangs up. This little man that goes around the neck.
Right.
And they suspend the pen, and I'm carrying a conversation with him
that's
as though I'm by myself with him.
That is the coolest thing ever.
The other thing I can do with this pen is that it is connected wirelessly through Bluetooth on my phone. So when I get a phone call, all I have to do is answer the call, and I
It
talk.
just streams right to her ears.
Does it stream back too?
So she uses that for the
She
mic.
use that
So
to
she
talk
hangs that
into.
around her
To
neck.
talk
She
into.
can answer the phone. It's hands
So I
free.
just put that around my neck, get it suspended here, hooked up.
It's not gonna do it.
I mean, I feel like a jerk face because I'm sitting here going like, I want one.
Actually, everyone should have one. That's great.
Is it like so? Because it's so. Is it streaming to the implant? Because you said it's going both ears. So
Right into, because the hearing aid and the cochlear has Bluetooth capabilities,
Right.
it just picks it up through the
So,
Bluetooth.
like I
technology.
can send music from my phone to your head.
Yeah.
That's
if we
messed up.
paired
Pretty
it,
much.
pair it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to pay
You
it.
have the boots though, right? We
The
have the
boots?
audio
Yeah.
shoes.
The
Yeah.
boots.
So she has audio shoes, which are receivers
Okay.
for that signal.
All right.
So it we replaced her battery door with an audio shoe, which also functions as a battery door, and that's what's sending the signal to the hearing aids. So it is it's sort of translating that Bluetooth signal to a signal the cochlear implant.
This is the reason we can do all the stupid shit we do with our phones, right? Like, is it funding for stuff like this that sort of helped advance a lot of this?
Nah, I don't know.
No, or is
I
it
don't
just
know
sort
what
of?
phone stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I just mean the technology itself. But like a lot of the stuff that you do with cell phones now with Bluetooth and all of that,
Yeah.
it's really like I don't know which came first. It's a chicken or the egg
It's
sort of
probably
thing.
collaborative in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. This FM technology has been around for years, and it's
Right.
what our children with hearing impairments in schools will use. So when you see the teachers with the microphone,
Okay.
they're using an FM system to have the teacher's voice come directly to their ears. This is super cool because for Nathalie, because of how busy her life is and the demands on because of what she does, she's able to use this for meetings and things like that, and it's streaming right to her ears.
That's awesome.
She's not missing anything.
That's incredible.
Yeah. No,
That's
it's
incredible.
been really wonderful. It used to be that I had a different system where I'd have to have so many wires and put it around my neck and plug it into my computer or my iPad or my phone, and like I'd be lucky if something was working, or if it wasn't working, I'd hear on one side but not the other side, and it was so frustrating. I just gave up after a while. Like I tried to be tenacious about it and just, okay, this is what I've got. I'm going to use it because I want to hear.
Yeah.
I have what's called FOMO. Fear of missing out.
Right.
So I don't want to miss out. I just want to make use of it. So
That's
this has
awesome.
been so
Do you remember when you
instrumental.
got it?
Oh my God.
She came in, and I put the. She goes, "Where is it?" I said, "It's in that little box." And she opened, she said, "This is it." I said, "That's it." And it was exciting.
Oh my
'cause
God.
She can connect to your phone,
To your phone,
your iPad, your
my
computer.
computer.
It's great, and it's that.
That's awesome.
This little thing.
That is so cool.
Really cool.
Natalie, Nisha, thank you for hanging out with us. As we're recording this, it is May. It's Hearing Awareness Month. I'm not sure when this is going to get out, but at the latest, we're missing it by a week or two. It doesn't matter if it's the official month or not.
No.
We are talking to musicians, and we did it last night. We do it every time we record in here. We do it whenever we record in band practice. Guys and girls that are doing this stuff for a living, protect your fucking hearing. It's really, really important. And
They will do noise plugs, musicians plugs.
Nice.
I have a set that I use for concerts, and they're fantastic. I love them.
there you go. So this isn't a paid
It's the
endorsement,
only
but-
hearing you get.
Yeah.
And you don't have to come see me, see an audiologist, see somebody, get a bass, especially if you're a musician, get a baseline hearing test, because, it's what you have.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't even go so fancy as to get special earplugs. Go to the drugstore. Put stuff in your ears to make you not go deaf. That's you want to protect your hearing. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Thank you for telling your story. It's an incredible story, and I can't wait to. I know I got so many other things that I want to talk to you about. All right. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you. Great.